right, I'd like to officially call to order the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of May 7th. Due to the global pandemic and state governor's executive order, there are no members of the public present in our council chamber. We encourage residents to remain engaged and watch our proceeding from home or through the website. Madam Commission Secretary, please take roll call.
Commissioner Armando? Present. Commissioner Fuentes? Here. Commissioner Ledden?
Present.
Vice Chair Barajas?
Present. All right, thank you. And now I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. So this is the time for presentation items, and we have 2 items on the agenda this evening. Community Development Director Gail Ackerman will introduce these items.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Our first presentation is the Code Enforcement Activity Report for the first quarter. And due to our the COVID situation, we do not have the 2 staff members for Code Enforcement and Public Works here to give their reports to you. However, they are available by phone should you have any questions. So we would just ask that you receive and file these 2 reports, and then please, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to accommodate that.
All right, does anyone have any comments or questions or want to pull anything? We're good? All right. So we move on. So we've reached the public comment section of the agenda. Until further notice, we encourage members of the public to submit their comments via email to planningcommission@lakeforestca.gov. E-comments that are 3 minutes or less will be read at the meeting. Please indicate if it is a general public comment or on an agenda item and indicate the item number. To ensure staff reviews all comments prior to the Planning Commission meeting, please submit email comments by 6 p.m. the day of the meeting. Comments received after said time will be uploaded to the agenda packet and made part of the official public record of the meeting. Madam Commission Secretary, have we received any emails intended for public comment?
I have not received any.
All right, so this is the time for the Commission to consider matters listed under the consent calendar, which includes item 3, approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of February 6th. Do any commissioners wish to discuss this item, or is there a motion to consider this item?
I'll make a motion to consider.
I'll second.
All right, so let's vote on it. Yeah, it'll come up on the display when it's prepared.
Please sign in so that we can vote.
I clicked please sign in and nothing came up on the screen after.
Has everyone signed in?
Oh, there's this requesting this one as well. Just click it.
So you just touch it and that signs in? Is it?
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome, thank you. So now we will open the public hearing for item number 4. Community Development Director Gail Ackerman will introduce this item.
Yes, our first item this evening is use permit for a heavy automotive repair business, and Jennifer Mansour is here this evening with the staff report.
Yes.
Good evening, Acting Chair and Commissioners. The item before you tonight is a use permit to establish a heavy auto repair business, Fabricante Auto Body, in 2 existing industrial buildings on Dimension Drive. The business is currently operating out of one of the buildings and is proposing to expand the business into the adjacent building. The 2 buildings are accessed from Dimension Drive via a shared driveway. The existing business has previously been approved for 2 use permits that allow for both auto body repair and towing. The existing building will maintain the customer lobby and the existing offices. This building will continue to include auto body repair, painting, and detailing activities. The new building will be used for auto body repair, equipment and part storage, and additional offices. All auto body repair activities, including painting and detailing, will occur inside the buildings. The applicant has proposed to utilize the parking stalls in the existing fenced areas at the rear of the building to store vehicles that are undergoing repair. However, based on the city's parking requirement, there are only 10 non-required spaces at the property that can be used for storage of vehicles. Accordingly, staff is recommending a condition of approval requiring the storage of vehicles to be located in the existing buildings or within 10 of the parking stalls located in the gated yard area. The project also includes repainting the new building white with a red accent stripe on top of the building. This exterior modification will create a consistent color scheme for the two buildings of the business and is in compliance with our design guidelines. The project as conditioned is in compliance with the applicable zoning code requirements and design guidelines and will be compatible with the surrounding uses. Accordingly, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving the use permit as conditioned. The new use permit will supersede the two existing use permits at the site, and therefore the resolution also includes a provision to rescind the previous two use permits. We did not receive any comments on this item. The applicant for this project is in the audience tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Madam Commission Secretary, did we receive any emails from the public wishing to comment on this matter?
I have not received any.
And have we received any written communications regarding this matter, which has now already been distributed to the commission?
No, I have not.
Okay. So seeing no other comments, we will close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments for discussion? No? Did the applicant wish to say anything before we vote on it?
Just if you have a question, till speak.
Okay. I did have one question. The property right next to the one that's going to be moved into, I forget which address it was, but it's the Paws Pet Resort, right? Are they aware of the change? I can't imagine it's going to be any kind of a nuisance for them or their business operations.
They were part of the public hearing noticing,
Okay.
but I didn't hear anything from them. But again, this was always a auto-related business.
Right. Okay. Then I am comfortable moving forward with it. So with that, do I have a motion to consider approving item as recommended by staff?
Motion to close the public hearing and approve staff's recommendation.
All right, let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, now we will open the public hearing for item 5. Community Development Director Gail Ackerman will introduce this item.
Yes, this item is a code amendment that handles 3 different topics in the city's municipal code, and Ron Santos is here this evening with the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This item is a staff-initiated zoning code amendment that has 3 components in the form of separate draft ordinances. The first is a general code cleanup with minor revisions to various sections of the zoning code. The proposed amendments are part of the city's continued efforts to adjust, refine, and streamline the code and to correct any errors, omissions, or inconsistencies that have come up since the prior code cleanup. The amendments include new and modified definitions, restored building setbacks for the CI zoning district, streamlined approval processes for minor plan sign programs, minor changes to mechanical pool equipment and accessory structure standards, an increase in the minimum residential driveway depth for consistency with other code sections, and establishment of a parking standard for counseling and tutoring uses. The second component is an amendment to the city's accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, regulations. ADUs are small housing units located on the same lot as a primary residence. The amendments are necessary to bring code bring our code into compliance with and largely mirror the requirements of recently amended state law. The ordinances establish revised development standards and permitting procedures for ADUs. The third component is a new chapter of the zoning code that provides standards and permitting provisions for unattended donation collection boxes on private, non-residential property. The ordinance provides for the establishment and regulation of collection boxes in order to comply with federal case law that has held collection boxes to be protected speech under the First Amendment. The Commission's action this evening would be separate recommendations to the City Council on the three ordinances. Staff has prepared draft resolutions recommending approval of each ordinance for the Commission's consideration. The City received one public comment letter regarding this item from Californians for Home Ownership, which is a nonprofit organization based in Los Angeles. In response, the City Attorney recommended a minor revision to the draft ADU ordinance, which is reflected in an errata placed on the dais before the start of the meeting tonight. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Madam Commission Secretary, did we receive any emails from the public wishing to comment on this matter?
I did not receive any.
Thank you. And have we received any written communications regarding this matter which has not already been distributed to the commission?
No, I did not.
Okay, so seeing no other comments, we will close the public hearing and move it up to ourselves for discussion. Did anyone have any questions on any of the items? For the ADU and JADU, that was changed to the California code that requires us to update our code to be compliant with state code as of January 1st, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's nothing we could do about the fact that people are potentially getting rid of their garages, but because we're all within a mile of parking, of bus stops, they don't have to make up for that difference in parking?
That's correct. The current state law and the draft ordinance would allow conversions of garages for homes that are within a half-mile distance of a bus stop. They would, of course, need a building permit for that conversion.
Okay. So since it's become a ministerial approval, is there anything we could do? There's nothing we could do essentially if it falls within the guidelines established in the code then, right? We're just going to see a bunch of ADUs then, and then we will deal with parking issues when they come. All right. And then the only other question I had was for the streamlining of the new sign program, the minor sign program. I know that you had mentioned in the report that if we, of course, if we wanted to, we could always pull something. I was wondering how that process would work for pulling something. If we, you know, is it after the fact once we saw the sign and we said, whoa, that's crazy? Or is it, I know we get the monthly reports, would we see it at that point and then we would say, oh, we would like to see that move forward before us to consider it?
Yes, and that's the reason why we publish that. We list all the current applications, so you know who is processing things with the city, and we list those ones that are going to be, that are slated for administrative approval. So if there's, we try and give you enough of a description that you could say, oh, tell me more about that, and if you did have a concern, we could bring it.
Awesome. All right, well then, and then for the, I was just curious, for the drop boxes, had anyone specifically requested that, or is it just we felt in case someone wanted it?
We receive inquiries from time to time about does the city allow them or not allow them, and so in response to those questions, we consulted with the city attorney's office and was advised that we should provide for them based on that case law.
Okay, that makes sense.
So will you go back to those who inquired and let them know? Yes, if the city council.
We would not have a record of those inquiries, but certainly going forward, anybody that would ask, we would advise them with assuming that the council approves the ordinance.
All right, does anyone have any other further questions or comments for discussion? All right, and so do I have a motion to consider approving items as recommended by staff?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now we will open the public hearing for item 6. Community Development Director Gail Ackerman will introduce this item.
Yes, this item is a plan sign program for freeway-oriented signage, and Amanda Loffer is here with a report.
Good evening, Acting Chair and Commissioners. The item before you tonight is a plan sign program for an existing office building located at 23101 Lake Center Drive. The proposed plan sign program includes regulations for tenant wall signage, including freeway-oriented signs, 6 directional monument signs, and a new main office building monument sign. The city's sign code allows for deviations to the sign regulations with the approval of a plan sign program. The applicant is proposing 2 deviations from the sign code for the maximum square footage and height of the 6 directional signs, which are located in existing landscape planters throughout the parking lot area. The directional signs exceed the maximum square footage permitted in the sign code by 5 square feet and the maximum height permitted in the sign code by 16 inches. Staff is supportive of these deviations because the signs have been designed in order to ensure that all sign copy is visible above the existing landscaping for pedestrians and vehicles. The sign code also states that any freeway-oriented signs require the approval of a plan sign program. The proposed sign program includes regulations for a main tenant identification sign along the building elevation that faces the freeway with a specific sign band area that is centered between existing architectural features. All tenant wall signs and the main office building monument sign are in compliance with the regulations in the sign code. The signs will be uniform in appearance and are consistent with other signage for office buildings along Lake Center Drive, including the freeway-oriented signs. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this plan sign program, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Madam Commission Secretary, did we receive any emails from the public wishing to comment on this matter?
I have not received any.
All right, so seeing no comments, we will close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments for discussion? If I could see. Yeah. All right, so do I have a motion to consider approving item as recommended by staff?
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second?
All right, let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, all right, so that does it for all our agendized items. Does Director Ackerman have any comments?
I just have a few comments this evening. It was announced today that our City Hall complex, our administration building, we're going to open to the public be open to the public on May 18th. So there's more information on the city's website. A lot of cities are kind of following suit. During the past 7 weeks, though, we've been running a lot of our operations online, and we've been very successful with all of our planning and building safety services being taken place online, and we've switched to some residential online inspections so that we don't have building inspectors going into private homes, and we've been continuing to inspect the buildings going on the Lennar site here beside City Hall. At this point, we do think we'll have a planning commission meeting in June, so that date would be June the 4th, and we would likely have revised some of the accommodations here. This is the first time we've had members of the public for city council meetings. We've not allowed any members of the public, but we haven't had public hearings, and we had an applicant this evening. So we'll see some changes there. And I think those are all of my comments this evening.
All right, thank you. Does City Attorney have any comments?
I have no comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll move on to commission member comments. Commissioner Armando?
No comment. It's nice to at least see humans in person for a change. So hopefully it'll get better after this even more. Thanks.
And then Commissioner Fuentes?
Well, I'd like to say welcome back, everybody. This is fun. We can do it again next month, too. Yay. And I'm
Put it on your calendar.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that the city's opening up. Lake Forest has always been first, and first in this, I was very frustrated. Thank you.
Awesome. Commissioner Ludden?
Well, it's nice to be back and to see the staff again, and nice to know the efficiency and everything continues in spite of all these complications. And we're very grateful for all that you've done. It's nice to have a meeting for the first time this week that's not virtual.
And then to me, again, I just want to echo, thank you guys so much for everything you've done while everything has been closed or getting shut down or just all over the place. I've called the city several times for some questions related to just my own personal stuff, and I've always gotten the phone answered, and I've always got responses quickly, and not even knowing that I was a commissioner or anything. Not that that would do anything, but but I'm really grateful and appreciative that at least something is functioning properly, and I'm glad it's my city, and I'm very proud of it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Did we announce Dave last time?
No, they didn't tell me.
Moved to Canyon Lake, and the council is going to be selecting a new commissioner, and I believe it will take place at their one of their June meetings.
Well, then I think it's important to say that he was my favorite chairman. We miss him, because you know he's probably watching.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he likes his gift, because we sent him a nice gift on your behalf to thank him for his 21 and a half years of service.
Wow.
I'm not sure he's watching, though, but he may be.
Do you know offhand, not just out of curiosity, would that be selected as a at-large, or would that be by the, or how would they select that, or do you know?
Mr. Carter was still an at-large commissioner, so it will be at-large, but then following the election in November, then any newly elected council member would have the opportunity to appoint their own person.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.